48 hours ago, Russian cargo aircraft began landing at Tehran's Mehrabad airport. The flights were tracked by NATO intelligence, Antonov An-124s, the heaviest military transport aircraft in the Russian fleet. 6 flights in 36 hours, each carrying components that have never been exported outside Russian territory. The S-500 Prometheus, Russia's most advanced air defense system, the weapon designed to shoot down American F-35s, the system that can engage targets at 600 kilometers, including stealth aircraft, cruise missiles, and ballistic warheads. The technology Moscow swore it would never share. It's now in Iranian hands. And NATO just called an emergency meeting. But here's where this story breaks apart. This isn't about one weapons system. This is Russia declaring that America's air dominance over Iran is over. Every F-35 mission, every B-2 sortie, every cruise missile strike, everything that's been working for the past 4 weeks just became exponentially more dangerous. The S-500 isn't an upgrade. It's a paradigm shift. American pilots have been operating over Iran with near impunity. Iranian air defenses, aging Soviet systems, limited domestic designs, couldn't touch fifth-generation aircraft flying at altitude. That asymmetry allowed the air campaign to proceed with 0 American aircraft losses. 0 losses in 4 weeks of intensive combat operations. That number is about to change. The S-500 was designed specifically to kill what America flies. Stealth profiles, high-altitude trajectories, hypersonic approach angles. Russian engineers studied American aircraft for decades and built a system to defeat them. Now Iran has it. And Russia's message is unmistakable. Moscow just told Washington, "You are not the only great power in this war anymore." Every escalation against Iran risks Russian technology killing American pilots. Every strike package faces systems designed to shoot down exactly what you're sending. Because here's what we know for certain. NATO's emergency meeting isn't about issuing statements. It's about confronting a reality that changes everything. Russia has entered this war through the back door, and America's strategy just became obsolete overnight. This is no longer US versus Iran. This is US versus Iran equipped with Russian weapons designed to defeat American aircraft. Stay with me. What you learn in the next 15 minutes will show you why the S-500 transfer changes everything, and why NATO is terrified. Welcome back to Warnomics. Before we break down what the S-500 actually does, why Russia transferred it now, and what NATO's emergency response signals, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now. This is the escalation that transforms the entire war. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why American air power just met its match, and what comes next. To understand why the S-500 transfer changes everything, you need to grasp what the system actually is, and why Russia guarded it more jealously than any weapon in their arsenal. Let's start with the technology. The S-500 Prometheus represents the pinnacle of Russian air defense engineering. Development began in 2010. Initial deployment to Russian forces occurred in 2021. Total systems produced, fewer than 20. Export prohibited. Until now. The S-500 isn't just an improvement over the S-400, the system Russia previously sold to Turkey, China, and India. It's an entirely different category of weapon. The S-400 can engage targets at approximately 400 kilometers. It struggles against stealth aircraft with reduced radar signatures. It was designed primarily to counter fourth-generation fighters and cruise missiles. The S-500 can engage targets at 600 kilometers. It uses a completely new radar architecture. Multiple bands, multiple arrays, specifically optimized to detect low observable aircraft. It was designed from the ground up to kill F-22s and F-35s. Let that sink in. Russia built the system because they watched American stealth aircraft operate with impunity in every conflict since 1991. They studied the radar signatures. They analyzed the flight profiles. They engineered a counter, specifically for the aircraft America depends on. The 7th Simpson N6 interceptor missile, the S-500's primary weapon, can reach Mach 9. That's faster than any aircraft can maneuver to evade. Engagement altitude exceeds 200 kilometers, well into space, capable of hitting satellites and ballistic warheads. This is why the S-500 was never exported. Russia understood that transferring this technology meant giving adversaries the ability to challenge American air dominance. The strategic value of keeping S-500 restricted outweighed any financial gain from sales. So why transfer it now? Russia's calculations changed when America went to war with Iran. Moscow and Tehran have deepened their partnership dramatically since 2022. Iran provided drones for Russia's Ukraine operations. Russia provided diplomatic cover at the UN. Military cooperation expanded quietly across multiple domains. But this transfer represents something new: active Russian intervention in America's war. The message is strategic, not just military. Russia is telling Washington, we can equip your enemies with weapons that kill your pilots. Your air dominance is a privilege we can revoke. Escalation against Iran means escalation against Russian-equipped forces. This transforms the conflict dynamics entirely. America's entire Iran strategy assumed air superiority. Strike what you want, fly where you want, accept minimal risk. The S-500 invalidates that assumption. Now let's understand NATO's response. NATO called an emergency meeting within hours of confirming the transfer. Emergency meetings are rare, reserved for events that fundamentally alter alliance security. The last emergency meeting of this type occurred after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Before that, after the 9/11 attacks. These are not routine consultations. What triggered the emergency? It's not just the S-500 in Iranian hands. It's what the transfer signals about Russian intentions. If Moscow will provide their most advanced air defense to Iran during active combat with America, what else will they provide? Electronic warfare systems that jam American communications, anti-ship missiles that threaten the carrier fleet, intelligence sharing that reveals American operations in real time. The S-500 may be the beginning, not the end. Let's examine exactly what the S-500 transfer means for American operations, and why military planners are rewriting strike packages overnight. The stealth problem. American air dominance since 1991 has rested on one technological advantage: stealth. Stealth aircraft don't fly invisible. They fly with reduced radar signatures, smaller returns that make detection and tracking difficult. Against older Soviet systems, stealth was effectively invisibility. Radar couldn't generate consistent tracks. Missiles couldn't guide to intercept. The S-500's radar architecture was designed to solve this problem. Multiple frequency bands operating simultaneously. L-band for initial detection, X-band for tracking. Active electronically scanned arrays that can focus energy on suspected stealth targets. Advanced signal processing that identifies aircraft by subtle signature characteristics. American stealth hasn't been tested against the S-500 in combat, but Russian claims, and NATO assessments, suggest engagement ranges against F-35s could reach 200-plus kilometers. That means Iranian S-500 batteries positioned in central Iran could engage American aircraft over the Persian Gulf. Pilots would face missiles they might not know were launched until impact. The coverage problem: a single S-500 battery can defend an area roughly 600 kilometers in radius. Iran's territory spans approximately 1,600 kilometers east to west. 3 S-500 batteries, positioned in western, central, and eastern Iran, could provide overlapping coverage of the entire country. Reports indicate Russia transferred at least 2 complete systems. If accurate, Iran now has coverage over its nuclear facilities, its capital, and its primary military infrastructure. The safe corridors American aircraft used to penetrate Iranian airspace may no longer exist. The pilot problem. Every American pilot flying over Iran just received dramatically different mission parameters. Before the S-500, fly at optimal altitude, rely on stealth, engage targets with precision munitions, return safely. After the S-500, assume detection is possible, assume engagement is possible, accept that your aircraft might not survive the mission. This is not hypothetical risk. This is calculated probability. And that probability just increased from near zero to significant. American military doctrine values pilot lives. Aircraft cost $150 million each. Pilots represent years of training and irreplaceable expertise. Losing aircraft and pilots degrades capability in ways that can't be quickly replaced. If the S-500 starts shooting down American aircraft, the political and military calculus of this war changes overnight. What Russia transferred? Intelligence assessments suggest the transfer included 2 50-pound R6M S-500 system batteries, associated 91.6 AM, radar systems approximately 80 756 interceptor missiles, technical advisors for operation and integration. The presence of Russian technical advisors is significant. The S-500 is extraordinarily complex. Years of training are required for proficient operation. Iranian crews cannot effectively operate these systems alone. This means Russian personnel are likely now present at S-500 sites in Iran. Russian technicians, possibly Russian military operators. Let that sink in. American strike aircraft may soon be targeted by systems with Russian personnel actively involved. A successful American strike on S-500 positions could kill Russians. A successful S-500 intercept of American aircraft involves Russian participation. The firewall between U.S.-Iran conflict and U.S.-Russia conflict just got very thin. The immediate operational impact. Pentagon sources indicate strike operations have been paused for reassessment following confirmation of the S-500 transfer. That's military language for, we don't know if our current approach works anymore. Mission planning against S-500 threats requires different tactics: saturation attacks to overwhelm defenses, electronic warfare to jam radars, cruise missile salvos to deplete interceptors before aircraft approach. All of this takes time to plan. Time Iran is using to position and activate the new systems. The air campaign that was systematically destroying Iranian infrastructure may have just hit pause. exactly when momentum mattered most. Let's examine the mathematics that make the S-500 transfer so devastating for American operations. The interceptor math. The S-500 battery carries approximately 40 interceptor missiles in ready-to-fire configuration. Russia reportedly transferred about 80 missiles total, enough for 2 complete reloads per battery. American strike packages typically involve 20-40 aircraft per major operation. Each aircraft might launch 2 to 4 precision munitions. That's 160 potential targets for Iranian air defense. But the S-500 doesn't target munitions. It targets the aircraft launching them. If S-500 batteries can engage aircraft at 200-plus kilometers, American jets must launch munitions from standoff range or accept engagement risk. Standoff munitions are more expensive, less accurate, and limited in inventory. The math forces difficult trade-offs: risk pilots or accept reduced strike effectiveness. The cost math. 7.76. Interceptor missiles cost approximately $3 to $5 million each, based on export pricing for similar Russian systems. An F-35A costs $80 million, and F-22 costs $150 million. A B-2 bomber costs $2 billion. If the S-500 achieves even a 10% hit rate against American aircraft, Iran can trade $5 million missiles for 80, 150 million aircraft. At 20% effectiveness, the exchange rate becomes catastrophic for American force structure, and missiles can be manufactured. F-35 production is limited, backlogged years, and cannot rapidly replace losses. The pilot math. The U.S. Air Force trains approximately 100 new pilots annually. Only a fraction become qualified for fifth-generation aircraft. F-35 pilot training takes over 2 years. If Iran's S-500 begins shooting down American aircraft, pilot losses cannot be rapidly replaced. Each shoot-down removes years of training investment and creates a gap that takes years to fill. This is the hidden cost of advanced air defense. Not just aircraft destroyed, but institutional knowledge lost. The coverage math. S-500 engagement range, 600 kilometers. Distance from central Iran to Persian Gulf, 400 kilometers. Distance from central Iran to Baghdad, 500 kilometers. Distance from central Iran to Bahrain, 1,150 kilometers. A single S-500 battery in central Iran can theoretically engage aircraft over the Gulf, over Iraq, over American-based locations. American aircraft carriers operating in the Arabian Sea, previously safe positions, may now be launching aircraft into S-500 engagement envelopes. The geometry of the battle space just contracted dramatically. The resupply math. Iran's initial S-500 inventory is limited. 80 missiles don't last long in intensive combat, but Russia has production capacity. And precedent now exists for transfer. If Russia resupplies S-500 missiles during the conflict, Iran's air defense capability becomes renewable rather than depletable. The standard American approach, launch enough attacks to exhaust enemy defenses, stops working. This transforms the war from finite to potentially infinite. The implications of Russia's S-500 transfer extend far beyond Iranian airspace. For NATO, the emergency meeting wasn't just about Iran, it was about precedent. If Russia will transfer the S-500 to Iran during active combat with America, what stops them from transferring similar systems to other adversaries? Syria, North Korea, Venezuela? Any country in conflict with American interests? Russia just demonstrated willingness to use advanced weapons transfers as strategic tools. NATO must now plan for S-500 systems potentially appearing anywhere Russian interests conflict with Western operations. The entire NATO air dominance assumption, built over decades, faces systematic challenge. For Israel has conducted hundreds of strikes on Iranian and Iranian-linked targets over the past decade. These operations relied on the same stealth and technological superiority America enjoys. Israeli F-35s face the same S-500 threat as American aircraft. Israeli strike planning must now incorporate the same risk calculations. More immediately, Israel's ability to strike Iranian nuclear facilities, the mission Israeli planners have prepared for years, just became dramatically more dangerous. The window for effective strikes may be closing as S-500 systems become operational. For Russia, Moscow has taken a significant risk. Direct involvement in killing American pilots, if Russian operators participate in successful intercepts, could trigger unpredictable American responses. But Russia clearly calculated the risk was acceptable. Why? Possibly because American commitment to Iran creates opportunity elsewhere. While Washington focuses on Tehran, what happens in Ukraine, in the Baltic, in the Arctic? The S-500 transfer may be part of a larger Russian strategy to overextend American attention and resources. For China, Beijing is watching carefully. The S-500 transfer establishes that Russia will provide advanced systems to countries at war with America. China faces its own potential conflicts. Taiwan, South China Sea, India border. Russian willingness to supply adversaries with anti-American weapons has implications across the Pacific. The Russia-China-Iran alignment isn't formal alliance, but it's increasingly functional coordination against American power. For American defense industry, the F-35 program cost over $1.7 trillion. It was sold on the promise of air dominance against any adversary. If the S-500 can effectively engage F-35s, that promise faces its first serious test. Program critics will demand answers. Congressional hearings will follow. The entire trajectory of American military aviation may shift. Fifth-generation aircraft were supposed to be untouchable. The S-500 was designed to touch them. For this war, the air campaign that was working may stop working. Iran gains time to disperse assets, harden targets, prepare defenses. The initiative that American air power provided may shift, and if American aircraft start falling from Iranian skies, the political dynamics transform entirely. Public support for the war, pressure for ground operations, escalation calculations. The S-500 isn't just a weapon. It's a strategic game changer that affects every dimension of this conflict. America's options for countering the S-500 threat range from difficult to escalatory. Option 1, standoff warfare shift entirely to cruise missiles, drones, and long-range munitions. Keep manned aircraft outside S-500 engagement range. Problem: standoff weapons are expensive, limited in inventory, and less flexible than manned aircraft. Strike capacity diminishes significantly. High-value targets in defended areas become unreachable. Option 2, CAD campaign suppression of enemy air defenses. Concentrated attacks to destroy S-500 batteries before they can engage strike packages. Problem: S-500 sites are defended, mobile, and potentially have Russian personnel present. Destroying them requires exactly the penetrating strikes they're designed to prevent. Circular problem. Option 3, electronic warfare. Saturation jam S-500 radars with overwhelming electronic attack. Blind the system before it can engage. Problem: S-500 uses multiple frequency bands and anti-jamming techniques specifically designed to defeat American electronic warfare. Effectiveness is uncertain. Option 4, strike Russian supply lines. Interdict future S-500 transfers by targeting cargo aircraft, supply routes, or Iranian integration facilities. Problem: directly attacking Russian military aircraft risks war with Russia. The escalation implications are obvious and terrifying. Option 5, accept degraded air operations. Continue strikes accepting higher losses. Absorb aircraft and pilot casualties as cost of war. Problem: American military culture doesn't accept preventable losses. Political backlash from pilot deaths would be severe. Sustainability is limited. None of these options restore the air dominance America enjoyed 48 hours ago. Or, those of us watching from home, the S-500 seems like military hardware, abstract technology in a distant war. But it represents something profound. For 30 years, American air power was unchallengeable. We could fly where we wanted, strike what we wanted, and return safely. That assumption shaped our military, our strategy, our understanding of what war looks like. Russia just challenged that assumption. And the challenge may succeed. The honest answer: we don't know yet if the S-500 will shoot down American aircraft. But the possibility now exists in ways it didn't 48 hours ago. American pilots are flying into that uncertainty right now. Their skill against Russian engineering, their training against decades of adversary preparation, the era of uncontested skies may be ending. Russia's S-500 transfer transforms this war, and warnomics will be here as the implications unfold. If this analysis helped you understand why NATO called an emergency meeting and what it means for American air operations, share this video with someone who needs to see beyond the surface headlines. Drop a comment below. Do you think the S-500 will shoot down American aircraft? And should the US strike the batteries despite Russian personnel present? Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell, because when the first reports of S-500 engagements emerge, you'll want analysis that explains what it means. This is Warnomics. Stay informed, stay aware. See you in the next one.